Okay, I want to start out this episode with a celebration from the Business Bravery community. And I want to share with you the amazing Adina, who is a mindset and life coach. And she's also a Reiki master, qualified in EFT tapping and matrix re-imprinting. And you need to know that I have just been spending the last 15 minutes Googling what matrix re-imprinting is because I'm like, oh, what is that? I need to know. And it looks very, very awesome, very exciting. So I'll let you Google that for yourself. Otherwise, this little mini intro will take way too long. But the brave thing that Adina is working on in her business is turning her self-coaching program into a live coaching course. I think that's in her words. As I'm, I, as I'm reading it out, that seems a little weird, but like a live coaching program is just, yeah, oh my gosh, I think that's just amazing. And I love that brave shift for Adina. And you can find her over on Instagram at personal growth with Adina, with underscores between the with and the Adina. Adina is spelled Edina. And I'll put a link to her in the show notes. And if you want to have the opportunity to be featured as somebody that we're celebrating from the community, then I would encourage you to come and join the Facebook group. Business Bravery with Tiffany G Studios is the name. The name in the URL is Business Bravery with Tiff, Tiff. And yeah, just come and join us. And there'll be I find these from the group, and there's also will probably be a way for you guys to fill out a form and get on here. I'm just following my intuition on this one and not overthinking it and starting out a bit messy. I am the brave one. So yeah, I will stop now and let you join in for the rest of the episode. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in the Facebook group. I'm your host, Tiffany Gilliland, an Australian business and mindset coach with 10 years experience in online marketing and the creator of the Business Bravery Framework. I help coaches like you to be brave so you can stop dreaming and start doing that next big brave step and finally make more impact and get more clients. From speaking on camera to selling to launching, my approach to bravery helps you take bigger leaps without the mindset spirals. It's the secret ingredient to bigger results. In this episode, I had the pleasure of chatting with Deb Porter, owner of Hold, which stands for Hearing Out Life Drama. She helps individuals and businesses improve their communication by teaching active listening skills, resulting in positive outcomes. Deb also provides a safe, non-judgmental space so that those who use Hold's confidential listening service gain clarity and find relief from overwhelming situations. I asked Deb to be on the podcast because I firmly believe that listening is a core skill for life, coaching, and business, and I was keen to share her knowledge and her very personal story of building these skills. With that said, this is an amazing episode, and I can't wait to share with you Deb's stories of business bravery, past, present, and future. Now, who's ready for some business bravery inspiration? Let's dive in. Hi everyone. I am here this week with the amazing Deb, who I'm going to let her tell us all about the awesome stuff that she is doing. We have connected on Instagram and we also had like a coffee chat call. I got to hear all about her amazing story and the things that she's doing in her coaching and her transitions in her own business, that kind of thing. And I'm really excited to share all of the good stuff that she has going on. So Deb, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been great getting to know you online, and I look forward to getting to know you even more through this podcast episode. And yeah, I just would love for you to tell us exactly what it is that you do in your business so I don't put the wrong words in anybody's mouth, and what brave things that you are doing at the moment in your business. So, yeah.
First of all, I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited to be here with you and your audience. What I do is I listen and I teach people to listen. That's it in a nutshell. And I know that perhaps sounds weird. Why do you have to teach people to listen? Don't we all know how to do that? But at least here where I'm from in the US, listening isn't taught in schools. And so it's something that we're expected to do, but we're not really taught how unless we've gone on for a higher degree in counseling or some other area. So that's what I'm about. I'm about listening and teaching people to listen. So my business is Hold, Hearing Out Life Drama, and I both listen and I teach through online courses. So
Wow, I love what you're doing in terms of teaching people to listen. I think, like, I know my audience is majority of coaches, and I think that whole learning how to listen it's just amazing for us to learn. Sorry, my voice will warm up. And we'll get over this, but yes, so yeah, I love what you're doing in terms of learning how to listen. How did that become something for you? Like what was it about that side of things that you felt called to? It's like, hey, yeah.
So it's kind of a long story, but I think we have the time to tell the long version, yeah, with your listeners. So
Yeah.
let me do the long version and then the meandering. When I was 19, I felt called to ministry. I felt like I felt really called to help people, and I thought that meant to be in the church. And so I went to seminary. I thought I was going to be a United Methodist pastor. I got my degree, a 96-hour Master of Divinity degree with a specialization in care and counseling, and I went off to serve churches, thinking that was it. That was my purpose in life. And what I discovered was that there was a discrepancy between my beliefs and where the church was actually when a family member came out to me. And that family member came out, and I realized whether it's my family member or someone else's family member, my answer is going to be the same. Of course, I'm going to marry you. And at the time that this was happening, colleagues who were already through the ordination process, they were actually being put on church trial. They were losing their ordination, they were losing their pensions. And I realized this wasn't something that I could continue to give my life service to. I was going to need to bow out. About the same time that all of that happened, I was also pregnant with my daughter and I had her. And so it was a good time to exit the church for me. And so I said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to bow out here. And then that time of my life was really about learning to be a mother. At the time that we got pregnant with our daughter, we discovered that my husband had the genetic condition that killed his two siblings. And we had been told through genetic counseling previously we had not intended to have children. And we had been told, no, you can't possibly have this because you're not dead. And during my pregnancy, I think I was about 5 months in by the time the test results finally came back because we had been trying to figure out what what. And so the doctor called us into her office. That's never a good sign when you get called actually into the office and told to sit down. She said, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but your Rodney actually does have MCAD. It's a genetic deficiency. Our children are not affected with it because I am not a carrier. And so anyway, I won't get into all that. Anyway, point being, that was a bit of a startling thing. And so I was, at that time in my life, I was dealing with a diagnosis of my husband at the same time I was dealing with a new baby and just all of the things. And so it was the culmination and the pileup. It was just the best choice to not continue to serve in the church. It was a very brave thing, though, I feel like, to do that because I had spent all of this time, money, and energy getting my sort of, going through seminary and getting that degree. I have that piece of paper for my wall, which is in a closet somewhere. Anyway, it stayed in the closet for it's still in the closet. It's anyway, but the good part about it is those skills have served me well, and that's a lasting thing. So anyway, I learned about being a mom. I learned about being a caregiver eventually for my husband, who then got sick. He almost died when my daughter was 3 and didn't made it through that. And I was just very determined that we would have a family life. I was very determined that this would not affect our lives. But unfortunately, he got very, very ill in 2011, and I spent 8 years caregiving full time. Uh, it was a really difficult time, and the listening part really comes to play here because family and friends, they really, really, really wanted to help me. They wanted to be supportive, but they weren't trained to listen. They didn't know how. How do you hold space with somebody who's going through something that difficult? Many of them didn't know. And so I became highly aware of the importance of listening in our world. I'll take a breath there. That's a lot. If you're still with me, thanks.
First up, I just want to say thank you so much for just being so brave today and talking about all of these big transitions in your life. Like, these are some big, brave steps, stepping away from the church, dealing with a husband with a chronic illness, or yeah, and then also like caring for him for 8 years and that kind of thing. And I can definitely understand, just like with my own situation, like I have chronic illness and conditions. My husband does as well. And also at the moment, just recently, my mother is going through some chronic illness stuff that has just flared up and just sort of changed the whole way we operate in the household and that kind of thing. So yeah, I can just really appreciate, like all of those shifts that you have gone through. What is some of maybe one of the biggest lessons, or one of the things that helped you through those shifts, if you don't mind me asking, something that helped?
Yeah, something that helped during those times, there was a group. It was called the Well Spouse Organization, wellspouseassociation.org. If any of our listeners need that, that was a safe place for me to land. And I utilized that group a great deal to find people that understood what I was going through at a very deep level. And they were able to hear me because they knew exactly what it was I was going through. So finding those that could hold space because they'd been through it helped for sure. The relationship with my husband, I helped him to get better. I found a medication because it's a rare disease. I did a lot of work and research. I helped him to get better. And then we needed to go to marriage therapy actually because suddenly he was better and his mind had not worked and then his mind worked. And suddenly the balance of power and all of the things that had shifted needed to shift back. And we did not manage that shift, sadly to say. And we divorced and I went to work in a funeral home. And so that was kind of the next step in the journey. But that's where I got to use my skills again. And that just felt so good. Like to be able to listen again, that was really terrific.
Yeah, yeah. Just sort of like I love where we're going on your journey, and even when we did our coffee chat call, you took me through this journey with these stories. So I love following along. A question that I have, you mentioned that when you were looking after your husband, you wanted friends and family, like they didn't have the skills of listening. And I was wondering if you could maybe give an example of a situation where it's like you were trying to say something, you were hoping for something from them, like how was that, again, if you don't mind me asking?
No,
Just
not at all. Not at all. No.
yeah.
So it's fine. So the one of the main mistakes that most people make in listening is actually trying to fix. And so that's what so many people did is I would just really not want anything other than to be able to say my truth, have it be understood and held in a space. But oftentimes it was so emotionally charged that people would offer me solutions when that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for compassion and care, not have you tried this? I got an awful lot of have you tried this? And while I know that that came from a well-meaning place, it was not at all what I needed or what I was asking for. But oftentimes, even when I asked, it
Mm,
was just really challenging for those in my world to
mm.
do that. So
Yeah, yeah.
mhm.
Yes, I have to admit, hearing that, I have definitely I've fallen into that more often than not when listening to other people, especially my husband. This is going to sound so crazy. And it's like this kind of thing where it's like, oh no, the women just want to be heard and the guys always trying to solve it. But when he has an issue, I just always want to just immediately solve it. I want to be, for years, I wanted to be the people pleaser, but also like the problem solver, and to help people and please people that way and things like that. So yes, definitely some skills in learning that actually less is more. And that, if they ask for, like, I guess, like for me, I've found if they ask me for, hey, what do you think I should do, or something like that, then maybe I will come up with a couple of suggestions, but otherwise I just try and listen. So yeah.
So if I could teach the world one thing, Tiffany, it would be
Yeah.
this. When somebody goes, "Bada, bada, 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 bada," and I don't know what to do,
Yeah.
it's in that moment where you say, that sounds really hard. Do you need me to just be with you and hold that space with you, or are you looking for solutions?
Mm,
And then wait for the answer and do whatever it is they say. And if they say, no, I just need somebody to hear me, then say, I do hear you. That's got to just be so hard. And let's just sit here with that for a while because I get it. That's rough.
mm,
And yeah. And and at that point, that person, once they have permission, once they have that acknowledgement that they're safe with you, they may even cry, and that's okay. I mean, it's and then if that happens, and it's okay to say, yeah, that's an appropriate response. I would be doing exactly the same in your shoes. Just go ahead and do what you need to do. I'll be here. I'm here with you. It's all right. Everything's all right.
mm.
And that, can you feel the difference in that as opposed to, you know, well, have you tried this thing? Have you called this agency? It's a very different feel. And if somebody is looking for that solution, then absolutely 100% do that. But make sure, discover what the outcome of the other person really is before you jump in and start to offer that.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. Such eye-opening advice, things I wish I'd have learned years ago. I think I learned something every one of these podcast things I wish I'd have known years ago would have definitely helped me with my relationships and things like that. Yeah, because of course, on the other side of the coin, when I'm talking about a problem and somebody offers their advice, it's kind of like I don't want to listen to their advice. I want to sort it out myself. So yeah.
Yeah.
How do we take this into like coaching for when we're in a coaching situation and things like that? I'm sure there may be more of a bias of, okay, you've paid me to be in this coaching situation, so the expectation may be a little different around, hey, I'm maybe looking for some solutions. What is your approach in those situations and suggestions?
I always suggest with anybody you're listening to, is start from where they are.
Mm.
So ask first, determine the outcome in every conversation. So I teach the core. Let me back up and just set the stage
Yeah.
for this. This is what I teach. I teach the core of listening. The core stands for calm, outcome, relate, and empathy. Those are the four things and I like that it's an acronym simply because it's easy to remember when you're in the midst of a conversation. You can remember four letters. You can check in with yourself during it. Okay, am I doing these things now? But when you actually ask for the outcome of the conversation as you're beginning, and especially in a coaching call, you should be setting it up with a check-in and what is it that we're going to accomplish today. That's a really good time to find out, what outcome are you looking for? Do you need to talk about this thing, or are we problem solving it? So get clear on that during that check-in time in your calls. That's my recommendation, and start from where they are.
Mm. Yeah. So that acronym again, calm, outcome,
Relate.
something relate.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
and what's the last one?
Empathy. That's okay.
E-
That's okay.
Empathy. Okay.
Yeah. So the relate piece has to do with the body language and the eye contact. And the relating is those making sure to put your phone away, those things that most people think about when they think about listening. That's where the R is. The empathy piece, that is really about the heart of the listening. That's where that piece really comes in, is we want to make sure that we're empathizing with the other person and we're looking at it from their point of view. And if we have our own different point of view, being able to say this is true and this is true is a really powerful thing, so that
Mm.
you can both have your truth in the same space. These are things I teach in my course. Yeah.
Oh wow, this stuff is so amazing. This was one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on the podcast, just because I think, I mean, for me, like, I don't know, I've been going through this thing for decades where I've been a people pleaser and like a long time listener of people. And that has, like, in terms of personal relationships, that has tend to attract for me a range of people who, like, they're very happy to have everything focused on them and keep talking about them. And so part of what I've been going through in the last 12, 18 months is learning to speak up a bit more and try and keep those relationships equal. But by the same token, I don't want to forget some of the skills that I have in terms of listening, but then try to keep it equal. Obviously, this is not the same situations that you're talking about where somebody's coming to you with a problem. And like you said, you've got that calm, God, my 3-second goldfish memory. CORE, calm. What was O
Outcome,
again? Huh?
Outcome,
Outcome.
outcome. What
Yeah.
outcome does the person that you're listening to
Yeah.
want? Mhm.
Yeah. And then relate empathy.
Yep.
I'll get there. It's the repetition helps me.
It's okay. It's okay. That's
So
beautiful.
yeah, so just like you can check in with the person and that kind of thing. But yeah, I just think it's interesting, all of these skills that we can use and make use of and that kind of thing. And I know in your work, like I remember when we connected, you told me about how you like have a thing of being open to listening to people. Like this is what you're doing in your like what you do. Isn't that right? Like people can book in a call to be heard and
Yes.
to be listened to. Yeah.
So I have a couple of different aspects to the business of Hold. We have the B2C side, and part of it is the listening appointments that you just described. And so we do listening appointments in 15, 30, or 45 minutes, and people can book for a time to simply be heard via phone, chat, or Zoom call. And they can talk about whatever it is they need to talk about and know that they will be offered no advice unless they specifically ask. That is stated very clearly on every call up front. This call is confidential, and please remember, we don't give advice unless you want it.
Yeah.
Y'all now who have listened know why that is that way, and that is exactly why it's that way. But I want to just really quick, you said speaking to be heard. That's exactly why in the course that we created, Listen Your Way to Deeper Connections, we actually put a bonus lesson in speaking to be heard. And so it's really interesting and fascinating that you can take the core and you can flip it for speaking as well. So yeah.
Oh, wow. So,
Mm.
oh my gosh. Okay. Making notes now. Things I need to go and check out. Just
Yeah.
because like I said, those are some skills that I'm trying to build more, but then obviously like not lose track of being a good listener with people and just yeah, finding that balance as best I can with certain people and certain personality types and the certain personality types I tend to attract. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important. Everybody deserves to be heard, everybody. And so, and a lot of times, if we've been in that role of being the listener, it does take a little bit of extra finesse and intention to help make sure that we create the space so that people can also hear us. And sometimes that's as simple as, I need you to listen right now. Could you do that for me? And asking for what we need. That can feel really scary for people. And yet, when we do it, it creates deeper connections when it's authentic and real and open and honest. It's good.
Oh, wow. Oh, so powerful.
Hmm.
Hmm. Okay.
Talk about brave. I mean, the opening up conversations like that, that's brave. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Oh, it is. It is actually just that being able to speak up, to be heard. It's for certain people who've had certain experiences in childhood, things like that, it can just be very hard to navigate, and especially in the beginning. And yeah, like it's so funny because it's like on the outside, it looks like you should just be, oh, speaking what's on your mind and just speaking. But actually, internally for me in the beginning, it was very much like I felt like I was being aggressive just because I wanted to say something that was on my mind, something that was affecting me, or yeah, like it's like other people might in certain situations maybe call it assertive or just being a normal human. And for me, it's just like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
yeah, just like I feel like I'm being super aggressive, and yet I'm like a little church mouse type thing or something. It's just
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It has been an interesting journey, as cliched as that sounds, but yeah, an interesting
Well,
set of skills for me to learn. Yeah.
when we know what we don't want, we know what we do want, right? That's isn't that very true? It's an Abraham Hicks phrase, but it's certainly been true in my life and pointed me in the right direction.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I know you've talked a bit about some of your transitions and everything to get to what you're doing now, and I know that we left off where you had your job at the funeral home, which was a job
Yep.
that you really loved,
I did.
and yeah, and so like from there, how did you get from doing that to doing what you're doing now? Am I missing a step? Yeah. Anyway, just
No,
yeah,
you didn't.
like.
You did not miss. I haven't told you that
Mm,
part yet. So I was loving the funeral home job, and then the management came to all of us in the cremation societies and said, we're no longer continuing the compensation plan we had promised you from the beginning. Instead, we're going with this other pre-need company. And instead of the cash bonus we used to give you, now you're going to get a $25 gift card. And I could not pay my mortgage with a $25 gift card. I could not figure out how to do that. So at the time, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pivot to something else. If I could do anything, what is it? What is it that I want to do? And I was reading Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich at the time.
Mm.
And there's a chapter in there on imagination. And so for all the business owners out there, that imagination piece is so important. And so I just let myself, like you, that childhood was a bit rocky and imagination wasn't something I got in trouble for daydreaming. And so
No.
it was
Yeah.
it was not something that was encouraged. And so I really had to sit with that for a little while and go, okay, so what if I just let myself imagine what it is? What is it? And I'm like, what if it really is just listening? What if it really is just that? What if it's connecting with people on that level? And it just felt so right. I can feel my goosebumps as I say it because it's so right for me. It's what I'm
Mm.
supposed to do. And so I had the idea and I reached out to Linda, who was one of the people that did a decent job of listening to me in those times when my husband was sick. I'd known her for 9 years at the time. And I said, Linda, will you help me build this thing? Will you come along with me on this journey? I'm 52, she's 62. It's kind of crazy to think about starting a business at our age. And she said, I can't believe you're asking me to do this. I think you're crazy. You're going to make a lot of money doing this. I was like, I don't know about that, but I'd love to build it with you if you want to come along for the ride. And so here we are. And
Mm.
so she said yes. And we opened July of 2021.
Mm.
And yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So with that transition then, like what were some of the things, like what were some of the bravest steps or bravest thoughts you needed to have, or like what was coming up in, that leap? Yeah.
Yeah. Who's gonna pay to listen, right? That's it's a really interesting thing. And so like I would tell people the concept of the business. I would share people the idea with people and they go, wow, that's really unique and different. I haven't heard of anybody doing that. And I knew nothing about marketing. This was maybe the one problem in choosing Linda. She didn't have a marketing background either. And so neither one of us knew anything about marketing. But the beautiful thing is, and I'm so glad I didn't know what I didn't know, because if I had known, I probably wouldn't have taken the jump. I probably would not have dared to. But sometimes that's the best thing, is not knowing, and you just decide this is what I'm doing, and I'm, in Napoleon Hill burning the ships and going to conquer
Mm.
the people, and because there's no other way to go. There's
Yeah.
no other way to go. And so for me, there is no other way to go. Truly, this is my path. And that's comfortable and exciting. And we just keep learning.
Mm.
We just keep learning.
Oh, wow. I think it's really fascinating that you talked about earlier in this podcast that years ago you had wanted someone to listen to you. And then now you're in this position of creating this business of listening to people, which fills a need that you had.
Yeah.
And yet your brain is saying, who's going to pay you to listen? Like nobody's
Mhm.
going to want that. Or, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just for
I hear
anybody
you.
listening, like it's just like our brains do this to us to help keep us safe. How did you overcome that in your brain? Like, did you have something that you would say back, or did you just push the voice down and keep doing it, or how did you move through that?
So a lot of it's Linda, to be honest with you. She's the voice in my head. She's the one that says, "Oh no, we got this. We just have to figure this out, or let's do this piece next." And it's really having, for me anyway, it's about having somebody else alongside me, encouraging me when I falter. So,
Mm.
because there are times that I do, I give her so much credit for where we're at today, because she doesn't let me just, there have been a couple of times I've been like, maybe we should just throw in the towel. And we have not, and I don't believe we will. I'm excited about where we're at right now and eager for more. Um, the courses, I think that was a pretty big pivot for us. We've just started really working on those this year. Our first one, well, we've done a few. We started with smaller ones and then kind of grew out from there. But we're targeting, not targeting, we're hoping to reach, on the B2C side, women especially, who want to improve their relationships, want deeper connections. And so we have a listening course for that piece. And then for the B2B, the business people, we have a new course that we just launched on November 13th. And the title of that is Listening Your Way to Increase Sales. And
Mhm.
I realized so clearly that we need listening in business as much as we need it in our homes. And if we give it to those people in business, it will also come to our homes. And from our homes, it will come into the business. And I think all of it together can just create these ripples of beautiful engagement with each other.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I can feel those ripples and just feel all of that impact. And like, as much as sometimes like I have kind of a like I wonder about the internet and all that kind of stuff, but like just when we get to talk about this kind of stuff and help share these kinds of ideas and help teach these things, oh man, I love the power of that. And yeah, I think it's so interesting that listening your way to more sales. You said increased sales. I wrote it down, but just I love the. It's I find it fascinating that so many people think sales is like, having a good pitch, being able to say the right words, and yet actually, I have found that the listening piece is the secret to which helped me when I was more introverted in the beginning of my business. It's like, oh, if I can just listen to people, then I can help. But yeah, like how do you see those things working? Yeah.
I love that so much because you already figured out the secret. That's fantastic. And people in business, you tell them they already understand. People in business understand relationships are the foundation of business, and communication is the foundation of relationships, and listening is the foundation and the bedrock of communication. And so once you say that to people, then you watch the lights turn on and they're like, "Oh my God, she's right. It is." And then they start to think, okay, so am I doing what she's talking about? And I can see them like checking themselves. Well, that's a really interesting thought. But that's where I think we're just in terms of being able to pay my mortgage, because that's a reality for all of us, right? I think that's where we'll be able to really get some traction now with this course. I'm very excited about it. Um, as I'm talking with other leaders in sales, I'm seeing them understand the point of what we're doing, and it really will make a difference in their sales. 100%. I've helped others it doesn't take very much, but when you do it on a consistent basis, when you understand what to do and you practice it, oh my gosh. The course itself only takes about 3 hours to complete. It's not a long thing. The other course, listen your way to increase deeper connections, that's not long either. I believe give practical examples, teach it clearly, teach it quickly, and let people go live and do the thing and have the benefit. What's what I'm all about. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And yeah, oh man, I love that stuff. A question that kind of came up while you were talking about that, because it sort of relates to something you said earlier, was around how like the moving into courses and sort of that the bravery of taking that on. And yeah, that I guess at that time that would have been outside of your comfort zone, because before that you were doing one-on-one coaching, is that correct? Or like one-on-one listening in
listening.
in your
Yeah.
vernacular. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
coding, it's listening. So
Yeah.
yeah, so how like what were some of the scary parts of having to make that shift, and that that you had to overcome?
Well, originally, so I had the idea for the business, and so we had the B2C, right? We had the listening component, and then I saw one day I was really clear. I was like, okay, we need some other pillars to hold this thing up. And so I had the idea for B2B, and I thought it was going to be blocks of listening that I would sell to business owners. And I thought it would be that offer, and that would be really attractive to businesses. But in reality, I was actually at an expo, and I had a business owner say to me, "So you're going to tell me what my employees talked about, right?" And he was serious.
Ugh.
And he was dead serious. And I said, "No, I'm
Mm,
not. Because what's the point in that? How is that going to help?" He could
mm,
not he could not understand the point of giving an outlet for his employees and giving them an opportunity to speak what they needed to and have it just be their space and their safe space, and that if they did that, they would in turn be a better employee. They would come with a clearer mind. He couldn't understand, he just couldn't understand that. And so I realized, okay, so this is going to be a little I thought to help people understand.
Mm.
um
Yeah.
but that particular conversation really brought me up short. I was like, wow. And I knew he's not the only one. I'm like, okay, so this is a framework that some people have, and so how are we going to help people understand that it's more than that? So I kind of put that to the backside. I'm like, okay, so the listening hours aren't going to be it. So what will be it? And so then the education piece kind of came to the front. I was talking with, his name is Michael Whitehouse. In the US, he's known as the guy who knows a guy. And I was on one of his calls, and he said to me, Deb, what if you offered an all access pass and do education? And the power went out in my home. We were on this call and the power went out in my home. And I was so excited. I got on the telephone with Linda and I said, Linda, we just had this idea and the power went out. And so she and I together, we created this whole, like, a fireworks in my brain. It was this whole explosion of ideas and thoughts, and she had ideas and thoughts, and together in just like an hour we had built out all of these thoughts. And and it was funny. I came back to Michael the next time. I said, well, I'm sorry that the power went out. This is kind of, this is what you said and this is what we have. He's like, oh, that's way better than what I thought of. The universe was taking care of me there, I guess. It was funny. I appreciate him so much. He's a good guy. Respect him greatly. Anyway, yeah. So then we had the ideas for the course. Linda and I wrote some materials together with those beginning ideas, and then there was a woman that I met at a local innovation center. Her name is Diane Dye Hansen. She's a business consultant. And we had these materials that we had created and we were proud of, these videos that I'd worked on to record. And she took a look at the materials, which at the time stood at about 45 minutes. And she was at the time going through her PhD program, writing a paper. And so she's like, is it okay if I write this paper on your stuff? And I was like, yeah, that'd be terrific. Thank you so much. And so she did. And she gave us her 9-page paper with her feedback. And there was a lot there that she said we could improve. And that gave us pause. We're like, oof, okay. So and so then that was in May of this year. And so then Linda and I took that feedback, those 9 pages, and we went, okay, the stuff that we did well, we want to make sure we keep doing. And then what are the other things we need to do to make it better? And part of that was using Kajabi and learning Kajabi. And so rather than just our website and kind of the janky way we had put it together. And anyway, so yeah. So it's been an evolving thing, and again, we just keep learning and growing and doing better when somebody gives us feedback. I always want to be better. I always want to do better. That's part of what being brave is not being afraid to. So I don't know about you, Tiffany, but I grew up hearing, if you can't do it right the first time, don't bother doing it at all. That was the motto in our home. It was devastating, and it's been a lifelong journey for me to eradicate that. And part of the reason why I needed Linda, part of that is eradicating that from my vocabulary, from my mind at all, so that I do approach life with, okay, what's next? Okay, what's next?
Yeah, definitely has been a similar thing for me. Like, I don't mean we didn't quite have that saying, but those behaviors and that sort of fixed mindset attitude was definitely taught and demonstrated by my parents. And a father who was good at everything first time round and expected the same of me. And I was good at things in a lot of areas of life, and then not great in other areas of life. And yeah, the same for me, having to learn that growth mindset, that whole actually the skills take time to learn and things like that. Like, my parents had a business when I was young, and like, it was a bricks and mortar retail business. They were selling computers at the end of the 80s, early 90s, before computers were cool or well known. And they built, in the first year or so, like, it was a 7-figure revenue business. They made it look easy. So for me, building my business, and when it wasn't easy and I didn't initially get clients, and I'd put something out there and not everybody came knocking down my door and things like that. Yeah, I just yeah, I would abandon it and I would pivot and not give things the time they deserved. And it was just very hard won lessons for me of learning to build my skills and just be okay with just being that whole, an overnight success actually takes 10 years. What I didn't notice about my parents' experience was they had, years of sales and other things behind them that I didn't realize. It just,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, absolutely, very much similar thing to what you've been going through too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot. This is heavy stuff. I hope your listeners are doing okay. Take a breath. Have a laugh with us. We're all good here.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it before. Like, it's kind of funny. Like, you would expect that somebody who had, these parents with this successful business and all that kind of stuff, oh, you should have a leg up. But actually, for me, it was like a leg down. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
My dad actually owned an auto parts store that my brother now runs in a really small town where I was born and where I grew up. And he said to me, I said to him one time, I said, I'd never want to be a business owner. And I think he's kind of laughing about that now. He passed away, but I think he's laughing about it now because here I am doing the thing. But it's okay. It's okay.
But you're enjoying it now. You don't regret that
Oh,
decision, or
I do not regret it in the slightest. No, I'm excited that I'm all in. I'm excited to see what happens next. I'm ready.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
so. Okay, so that's a great segue into like what actual brave things are you doing in your business sort of now and into the future? Yeah.
Yeah, so now I'm talking to VPs of sales and presidents and CEOs and having those conversations, one on one and owning all of who I am and letting that be okay. I mean, I don't really have a sales background per se, other than some things, but I've experienced salespeople that where it didn't go well, and I learned an awful lot just through the school of hard knocks. And so people might say, oh, well, she doesn't have enough experience in sales to really have written this course, but I think it's really good. And so it's brave for me to come and stand on the truth that I know and trust that it's enough in those conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about the listening to better sales course. Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
Yeah.
Or is there something
Hmm.
else? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like I think I don't think there's any kind of like you get to some moment in sales or any kind of skill where it's like, oh, okay, now you can turn around and teach. Like sometimes we teach things earlier, like as long as we're a step or two ahead of the people that we're helping and that kind of stuff. That's where I come from. And that's part of what I always do is like I kind of learn something and then I turn around and want to teach others and it helps me with the learning and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely if anybody's listening and thinking, oh, maybe I don't have the skills to teach this thing, just know that, yeah, sometimes you only have to be a step or two ahead of the people that you're teaching. Yeah.
Well, and the thing I know is the listening. And so it's
Mm,
just the combining. I'm really confident that I know that piece. The sales, somebody might say, "Oh, well, you don't have as much experience in that." Well, you might be right. I don't, and because I
mm,
listen, I can do the other thing, and that's
yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing I want to say is if if you are learning from somebody who has like 20 years experience in sales and you're right at the beginning, oftentimes they might not remember what it's like to be you. And
Mhm.
so they may not have the useful things for where you're at because they're just so much more practiced. It's become so much more of their identity
Yeah,
and worked into that. I think it's like unconscious of what is it like unconscious competence. That's yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know things. I know words. There we go. So yeah, and that's what I've found even when I'm trying to help people with things like especially like around computers. I've been using computers since I was a young child, and so sometimes it's like, oh, I've got to remember what it was like to not know these things, and it can be hard to unlearn what you don't learn. So that's where the benefit of, you know, yeah, learning from somebody who's only a step or two ahead, they remember what it's like to be you. Oh, here's how I handled that, and yeah. Mm,
That's really valuable. I agree with you 100%. You're
mm,
right on
yeah.
target there.
Yeah. So then what brave things have you had to think or overcome, like, I mean, you've kind of talked about it a little bit already, to stand in front of these CEOs or managers of businesses and things like that, other than on the sales side, the listening side, you have all the skills and experience there. Like, how's it been going, like showing up to your first one of these, booking your first one of these? What brave steps did you have to go through?
Ah, so, it's a lot of conversations to get to the conversations you want is what I've experienced.
Mm,
And just trusting the process, that not something I was really comfortable with, especially in my younger years. Trusting the process to unfold and just to trust that it's moving in the right direction. That's a mindset thing too that I really had to understand and embrace at this stage of my life, that I think has been good and also somewhat scary, because I obviously want to build the successful thing. I really want to build, it's so funny because I want to build the successful thing because I have this other dream to create this thing for caregivers that I really want to do. But I want to have the money from this. I want to sell the business eventually in, 10, 15 years and then go build this other thing. Yeah, a lot
yeah.
of ideas. So it's giving myself space and permission. I think it's permission to just be on the journey as it is and let it unfold.
Mm. Yeah, that probably comes back to the what you said before about the that overcoming the idea of, if I'm not good at something first time round, don't do it at all. And it's
Yeah.
like building those skills of growth, or however that you want to say it for you. But yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, maybe it really all is the same thing. It could be. But I think too, sometimes you just have to start.
mm,
Sometimes you just have to decide. Napoleon Hill talks about this too in his book, Think and Grow Rich. Decide what you want and believe that it can be yours. That's so powerful and so ah
yeah.
I can have anything I want, really. So then that's really challenging. It's like, okay, what is it that I really want in my life? What do I really, really want? Getting clear about that's empowerment for women, I believe, for all of us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think also there's the step, it's like getting clear on it, but then still believing when you put out the email and the clients don't necessarily flock to you. And it's just like being able to stay in that belief and believing while you go through the messiness of growing the skills or things like that.
Yeah, I really thought when Linda and I started that all we'd have to do is put a message out on Facebook, that, and not even an email list. I wasn't even thinking email. I hate
Oh,
email. I'm
yeah.
like, no, I'm not going to do email. We'll just put this out. We'll just say, here's the website, and then it would be done and it would be finished, and that nothing could be further from the truth. That was a very naive thought, and it's okay that it was a naive thought. I can look at that with compassion and love and go, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Is that one of the things you mentioned? If you'd have known what it was
Yeah,
going to take, you.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's one of
um,
them.
yeah. What did you have to do to sign or to get your first listeners? I don't want to say coaching clients, but your first listeners. Like, what?
Yeah.
How did? Yeah.
So the first ones came and actually really validated the concept for me. I trained a couple. I took my training and I was like, okay, I need to synthesize this so I can replicate it, so we can scale this. And so I recognized that really early on. I was like, okay, what is it that other listeners need to know? How would I train them? And so I worked out all of that process and then trained a couple of other people. And then it was interesting. We had Linda and I in our circle of known people. We had a couple of people that said, "Ooh, yeah, I want a listener, but not you," because I didn't want it to be somebody that I knew, and
Oh, okay.
they wanted that anonymity. And so that really validated for me the business model and the business idea, and that, yes, I'm on the right track, and people really do need somebody in their life that they don't know, to be able to say
Yeah.
some things. And so,
Mm.
yeah. And not and don't misunderstand if anybody's listening and they think, oh, well, she's doing therapy. I'm not doing therapy. That we do not take anyone in a rolling calendar year beyond 6 times, because we want to make sure that if anybody needs therapy, they get that help. And so I've really clear about that with everyone. It's clear in the terms and conditions and the agreement. We're not helping those who are suicidal. We have other hotlines for that. That's not what we're about. But if you need somebody to just listen to you, I got you.
Mm.
We've got you. My team's got you. So yeah.
Wow. So it sounds like you have kind of a process of, making sure you've got the right people. Like, do you have like a form that people fill out before they book on a listening call? Or how do you, like for the people who need help with suicide and that kind of stuff, like how do you?
Yeah, if somebody is suicidal, we give them the number and we ask them to. We end the call and we make sure that
Mm.
they're going to hang up and call that number. That's They need help beyond what we give, and that's really not what we're for. If somebody needs that kind of help, or any trauma, we're for drama, life drama, not trauma. For trauma, you need a therapist, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We just want to make sure we get you to the right person. That's not us, and that's okay.
Mm. Yeah.
We're
And
we're not family and friends, and we're not that. We're like this other middle lane that's kind of new and different.
mhm. Wow. So then like you work those things out on that first initial call is kind of how you like if they come up. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, if somebody is booked with us multiple times, we won't take them past a sixth call, simply
Mm.
because at that point it's really time to transition them. If they need us more than that, they do probably need other help. And
Mm.
so I've been working really hard and diligently to build a list out of other certified therapists that I can refer to who see people across the nation. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And so is it just you and your business partner who do the listening calls, or do you have other people who do those calls?
Ironically, we were a few months in, and Linda said, I don't really think I want to listen. She's like, I don't think I really want to do that. And so I said, okay, no, that's good. I'm glad you told me that. Let's find a space where you really do want to be. And so her role in the business is not the listening aspect. It's a lot of the other back end stuff that people don't see. Linda discovered that she really likes editing videos and doing content creation. And so that's really where she brings a lot to the table for us, as well as just keeping me grounded and moving forward every day.
So yeah, so then that means that you're doing the majority of the listening calls yourself.
Yes, and I've trained 2 other people. And so when we
Okay.
get busy enough, I have those people ready to come on board. Yeah.
Mm.
We don't
Okay.
currently have enough calls yet coming in to be able to need them full time, but they're trained and ready. So
Oh, nice. Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. So then what kind of things do you have planned for the future, like in terms of the next few months, like brave steps? Yeah.
So I met a marketing mentor in Carson City, and so I took a brave step by reaching out to her and saying, look, I realize that the marketing piece is something that I've been missing. You've helped me along the way. I think I need more of your help. Would you be willing to do this for a commission basis? Because I don't have enough money to pay you yet, because the business isn't going along well enough. And she actually said yes. And so she's leveled us up in a really positive way, and really excited about where that's going, to actually have marketing help now, because that's not my background or training, and I know nothing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, what a great idea, actually, finding someone to do marketing on a commission basis. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Really thankful she said yes. Really, really thankful. She knows what she's doing, and she's doing it with us and helping us and doing a
Mhm.
fantastic job. And I'm so excited about, as a result, where we're going to be.
Mhm.
So, but it took some bravery to reach out and say, hey, asking for help's hard for me. It's again, part of that family background. Asking for help wasn't something that was encouraged. So
Oh, wow. And so how did you work through that asking for help? Like, I'm sure like it's a very common thing for people in business to like not want to ask for help. So how did you work through that for you? Because that might help someone else listening. Yeah.
I realized it was safe to ask her for help. She could say
Mhm.
yes, she could say no. I realized I wouldn't damage the relationship that we had no matter what. We had a solid enough foundation with that it was gonna make a difference. And I think the other piece of it too was that if she said no, I knew I could find another way. Like she was, I won't say the path of least resistance. She was, she was the best choice. But I knew if she said no, I could still find another way. So I wasn't so dependent. Like I wasn't so needy that she say yes. And I think that helped too, being able
Yeah.
to go, well, if it doesn't go my way, that's all right. We'll find another way. So
Mm. Yeah. Nice. That's some amazing, helpful advice for anyone. It's like if it doesn't go the way I hoped, we will find another way. Like it's definitely one of the most useful things to have as a business owner, just that kind of approach and way of thinking.
yeah,
Do you find that?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Linda's really good at reminding me of that when I forget.
It sounds like she should be a
You
business
should, she,
coach.
she should, she's everybody's best friend. Everybody needs to know Linda. But I'm keeping her for myself. You'll have to stand in line. No, she really is a terrific individual. You mentioned the multi-potentiality, really being able to do anything. Linda started out in programming with her education, and then she ended up being a homeschooling mom, and she wrote books, and she's learned art. She taught herself to paint. She's just this phenomenal individual who is not scared to learn anything and just she has the mindset that when I falter, she definitely keeps it on track. So I'm really grateful
Mm.
for her.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. It has been amazing talking to you about all of this good stuff so far. I have one kind of last question for you.
Sure.
And that is for anybody who's listening who is perhaps thinking about doing a brave thing in their business, the next brave thing, but they're finding now's not the right time, or they're just a little bit apprehensive about doing it. So, whether that is contacting, CEOs and high level managers in corporate, or whether that is just being brave enough to say, hey, I can help people with listening, or whatever their version of that is.
Mhm.
What would you say to that person? What advice would you have for that person?
Well, my first thought was, well, there's never a good time. It's like having a baby. There's never a good time. If it happens, and you figure it out. I think the thing that has probably been the most important thing for me is to get into alignment yourself, to like feel like it's right for you. And then once you have that feeling of this is right, then take action and not be afraid to take action because you know it's right. And so, but don't just take action for the sake of taking action. That's not usually going to work out very well. But once you are certain, it's like I was talking about before, when I had the idea and I knew it was right, that's when I knew I should do something about it. That's when when you have that internal feeling of yes, your gut knows if you just listen to it. It's as important to listen to ourselves as it is to listen to anyone else.
Ooh, wow. Oh, that's so powerful. Absolutely. That whole learning to listen to myself, another thing that I'm working on for sure. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah, I'm letting you have it all, Tiffany. You're okay.
Hey, I
It is,
appreciate
it is
that. I mean,
It is powerful. It is powerful because when we do it, we are empowered. That is the source of where that comes from for us. And when we do that for ourselves, when we tune into that, there is literally nothing we cannot be or do or have for sure. Yeah.
when we tune into that, there is nothing that we can't be or do or have. Ooh.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, so powerful. What an amazing way to close out an episode.
What a
Thank you
great
so much.
conversation. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
talked a lot more. I prefer the listening part. So thank you for, thank you everybody for listening to me for once. I hope it's been
Um,
fun for you.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Actually, just on that funny story about like, when you get two people who like listening together in the same room, like my husband and I, our first date, we're both so used to other people controlling the conversation. And so it was this awkwardness of why aren't you talking? And he's like, why aren't you talking? Don't do, and so yes, luckily we managed to find a way to actually talk, but just okay. So we will, of course, have links to Deb and all of the amazing things that she has going on in the show notes. But for people who are like me, who are like, oh, I don't want to click on things, I just want to go to Instagram and or whichever, where can people find you? Where's the best place?
So if you're interested in the sales course, I would say LinkedIn. We have a link directly on the LinkedIn page on my LinkedIn. Just Deb Deb LH Porter is my LinkedIn handle. And then if you're looking for a way to connect with me on Instagram, Hearing Out Life Drama, at Hearing Out Life Drama, that's me there. And if you have a personal question that you would like to ask, my email is info@hearingoutlivedrama.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deb. This has been an amazing conversation. And yeah, thank you for all of your time and your insights around listening and sales and just all of your brave shifts and things. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Business Bravery podcast. Has this episode inspired you to do something brave? Even if it's only send a difficult email, please share it with me on Instagram or other social media channels. Feel free to tag me at Tiffany G Studios. That's TIFFANY. G for golf, STUDIOS, no spaces, no underscores, etc. Or you can use the hashtag Business Bravery Podcast so that I can cheer you on and together we can inspire other coaches and course creators to do brave things in their business and life. Now, I'm Tiffany and I'll leave you with this one last thing. What's one brave thing you're going to do today? It doesn't have to be big. Even the smallest steps can create the most massive results. So again, feel free to share it with me either publicly or privately so that I can cheer you on. That's it from me. Until next time, bye for now.